Oh my God, Anita.
What a kick-ass song. Hey, how are you doing today, folks? Welcome to another edition of the Willie Bragg Show. I'm your host, Willie Bragg. I hope all of y'all doing well. We were supposed to have Justin Adio on this evening at 6 p.m., but he had a work schedule conflict, so we're rescheduling that another time. But Santa Claus will be here Monday afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so we're looking forward to that. So there's that, and again, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, follow me on here on YouTube, Twitch. Follow me on Twitter and Rumble, and well, we'll be putting videos on Rumble at some point. Just be patient. There will be videos on Rumble. I keep saying that, but I have to repeat myself over and over and over. Let's talk about Dennis Prager. Dennis Prager, when I first heard of him, and I'm the kind of person that will listen to somebody if I disagree with them, even if I disagree with them, if they're not particularly hateful, even though I disagree with them, I will exercise maybe a little bit of kindness in return. But then you listen to what they say, and you really listen to what they say, and you have to ask yourself, can it be justified? And Dennis Prager comes across as a mild-mannered and almost polite to a fault. But his politics is absolute shit. I mean, it's right down. It's basically a continuation of the Rush Limbaugh 1993 talking points that we are still contending with to this day that I absolutely despise. And that's being generous and kind about it. It's really down to the level of Mark Levin. He's basically Mark Levin with a Phil Donahue-like demeanor. That would be Dennis Prager. He's an asshole. Prager is garbage, and the stuff that comes out of Dennis Prager's mouth is garbage. And so I This is from a few months back, but it's still worth listening to because they're still on this kick that we're about to become a socialist of America. A socialist America. The socialists are about to take over. There's no socialists anywhere to be taken over. I mean, you got two parties. You got a far right wing party and you got a center right conservative party. The far right wing party is called the Republican Party. They're Joe Biden is being a stop clock, given the right time twice a day. They're semi-fascist at this point. I'm talking about elected Republicans. Democrats, they're not socialists. They're not communists. They're not any of these things that the right wing claim they are. They're basically center right to the right of the Conservative Party in the UK. That's where the Democrats are right now. And that's the God honest truth. So we got two right wing parties. Now the center right party, the Democrats, have a small wing of that party that's not even in control. And they act like, and they're talking about Bernie Sanders and the squad. And they're not about to take over the country. So, but you hear some of them, they act like, oh, they control Joe Biden and Bernie and AOC, Bernie Sanders, AOC, Elizabeth Warren even. Wow, Elizabeth Warren's not even left wing as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, they claim that, they control Joe Biden. They don't. Anyway, Kevin Hassett, who was a senior advisor in the Trump administration, is guest on the Dennis Prager show, and he's had a nice little chat with Dennis Prager about this illusion about a socialist takeover of America. So I'm going to let y'all listen to this conversation, and I'm going to interrupt and give y'all my 2 cents and give you my additional takes afterwards. Give me a moment here. All right, and let's do this. Okay. All right. Let's see. There we go. Get it on full screen. And we'll put the speed at 1.25 and to get the ball rolling. And we'll get the screen ready and we'll take it away. All right, hold on. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and play it now. Oh, hold on.
Before I get into this really important subject with you, Massachusetts, all of my life has stood out as particularly dumb. And I wonder if it's related to the fact that it has so many universities.
But, in fact, that's basically, you just jumped right into, I know you're hoping to pause at one of the main themes of the thread. In fact, I talk a lot in the book about this guy, Joseph Schumpeter, who's a famous economist, you quote author, that he was a Harvard professor who saw that Harvard basically was going to destroy the country. He wrote about it almost 100 years ago. And that's almost the jumping off point for the second half of my book, where I try to think about why are we losing the socialism, who's behind it, and where does Donald Trump fit in?
Wow, I really hit pay dirt with that comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not even anywhere close to being socialists. I mean, Joe Biden on the issue of healthcare promised a public option. And he said that if the Democrats managed to put a Medicare for all single payer healthcare bill on his desk to sign into law, he will veto it. But somehow, to the Republicans out there, he's still a socialist. I mean, and they're not even trying. We had COVID for the last 2 years, had an opportunity to do something for healthcare. And we had an opportunity, it was called Forced to Vote, and nothing was done. I mean, even our allies in Congress, the squad, were too scared to do something about it because, it would look too divisive. And we don't want to hurt Nancy Pelosi by holding her seat hostage and having her not becoming Speaker of the House. I will repeat myself. Where's the downside to that? She could go and put Medicare for all for a vote or not be Speaker of the House. And unfortunately, we don't have Medicare for all. And unfortunately, that Karen is still Speaker of the House. But let's go on.
Talk to me about that for a moment then. The universities as the seed of the drift to socialism.
Yeah, and so what Schumpeter said back then, and it's just stunning to look at it now, is that capitalism was going to work really well, he thought, for about 50 years. And the standard of living was going to go up, and income inequality was going to go down. And at the same time, though, capitalism was going to sow the seeds of its own destruction. Because as we got wealthier and wealthier, kids wouldn't have to stay at home and work in the fields. They wouldn't have to stay and help, dad in the shoe shop. Instead, we would send them to universities. And universities, he described, are basically going to be like seminaries of socialism, totalitarian socialism.
In campus, I was told in my college, I was told that liberal college, that liberal campus at the university that I attended. And honestly, they think, and of course, this is in the early 90s, they think that somebody who voted for Bill Clinton, who's pro-choice on abortion, whose position on gay rights was, well, I don't have a problem with gay people. It's cool. It's cool. And usually a conservative will be like, what are you, some kind of a liberal weirdo? That was the 1993 concept of what a liberal was. Somebody who was concerned about saving the whales and the oceans, that sort of thing, recycling cans, and driving around their Volvos, which Volvos are awesome cars, by the way, or driving around their BMWs, with a Bill Clinton, Al Gore 1992 sticker on their car. And people probably thinking, oh, they're a bunch of socialists. No, they're just shit libs. 1992 version of the shit, 1990s version of the shit libs. I used to kind of admire these people back then, but these people are not dangerous radicals. They're just not. But these morons here, Kevin Hassett and Dennis Prager, think these are dangerous radicals I just described. No, hardly.
And he even has this whole wonderful chapter about why professors are all socialists. But his basic idea was that we're going to...
the same university. I only ran across one socialist. And some people would probably debate whether this person was a socialist or not. He was half German. His parents were German. They moved they lived in Wisconsin, and they moved back and forth in Germany. And this man was a member of the Social Democratic Party of Germany. He was a member, and he was a Democrat here in the United States, presumably in DSA. I was getting familiar with DSA at that point. And he was in favor of social democracy as it existed in Europe. And he influenced me into that direction. He was the chair of the political science department. He might have been the most radical person on the campus. And, that's where our Overton window is. Somebody who may play platitudes to something like the Social Democratic Party of Germany being considered a dangerous radical. That's going to be as radical as you're going to get in our political discourse in this country. Honestly. I know that there are tankies out there, whatever, if they were to ever get in any sort of power, it would be no different from what happened in the UK. British version of a tankie getting elected would be a Labour Party MP. Britain is not, so-called totalitarian socialist either. Unfortunately, they got a bigger problem now with this Karen, who is now a cross between Kirsten Sinema and Margaret Thatcher with their new Tory Prime Minister, Liz Truss. I hope the militants in the Labour Party and outside the Labour Party, people, independents and trade unionists get radicalized and do everything they can to disrupt her government.
We're going to send our kids to universities that are going to teach them a religious commitment to socialism. And then the smartest of them are going to control the New York Times and the CBS Evening News. And before we know it, there'll be nobody left to defend capitalism, is what Shuffman thought.
The New York Times and the CBS News, that socialism. There are people that believes that, by the way. There are people that believes that the mainstream news and the mainstream newspapers in this country are socialists. They're corporate Democrats. Just because you're pro-choice and just because you're pro-LGBTQ and just because you're cool with people of color, and you believe that women should have equal rights, those are wonderful things. Socially liberal, socially progressive, socially inclusive. Those are wonderful things. Base, wonderful. But, when they're just as corporatized as the rhino Republicans, really not much good when they're doing just as much harm on the foreign policy and on economics and on the ecology, all other fronts. But I guess it is good that at least on some social issues that these people that morons like Dennis Prager and Kevin Hassett would call socialists, they're not socialists, but they're socially inclusive, socially progressive, wonderful, base.
And I think the thing that he didn't see coming was Donald Trump and you. The fact is that they do kind of, remember, it used to be when I was growing up, I'd watch Dan Rather or, Cronkite, that was about it. We had 2 channels on our TV, and they really did curate our lives. But because of the internet and the thousands of voices that aren't necessarily concerned about what Harvard thinks is respectable, then capitalism had a fighting chance under Donald Trump.
Capitalism had a fighting chance under Donald Trump. Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton could have been president. Guess what? We'd have still had capitalism. I hate to burst y'all bubble. Even as much as I love Bernie Sanders, if Bernie Sanders would have become president and he would have gotten pretty much everything he wanted and even more, what would have happened? You guys would think we were North Korea or something, when we would probably be basically Sweden, Norway. But to y'all, it comes down to this, to these right-wing nut jobs. Everything I don't like is socialism.
But then the next thing that I go into is that Marshall McLuhan, who studied and wrote a lot about the internet back in the 60s, said, well, the elites are going to lose their power at the beginning of the internet because there's going to be a competition for attention, and the stupid socialists basically aren't going to have a shot at winning that. But then what's going to happen is the elites are going to organize inattention. That's the way Marshall McLuhan described it. They're going to start to cancel people and shut them off the internet and make it so that people can't tune in to the voices that basically disagree with the established status quo. And so that's why, I think that the drift is so important.
Let me get this straight. I think he's saying that they're going to try to manipulate the media so that the socialists are going to be the status quo. I see just the opposite of that. Everywhere you go, anywhere where there's a left-wing opinion, it gets outshouted down by right-wing opinions, almost 10-1. And that's the way it is. Net neutrality, getting rid of net neutrality even made it more so. So, things like that. The Telecommunications Act of 1996 that consolidated media power has done much more to basically shut down or push the left out of any mainstream. Yeah, for a brief while, YouTube might have actually been a kind of a light, but now there's a lot of algorithm manipulation because of Google owning YouTube. And so alternative voices are getting harder and harder to get out into the public. And so, someone like Ben Shapiro is going to be getting better circulation than, let's say, someone like a Kyle Kalinske, for example, or someone like that. Or, that just shows you how terrible things is. Because, honestly, if the algorithms were allowed to do what they were normally supposed to do and not be manipulated, someone like a Kyle Kalinske would destroy Ben Shapiro in the algorithms and have more subscribers, for example. But this is the way things roll in this country. And so, the right wing will brag that their ideas are better. This is why more people listen to them. No, the big money dominates right wing ideas, and they can scream louder because they got the money and the power to scream louder. Doesn't mean they're correct. In fact, far from it.
It's not that I'm looking at what happened right now and come up with a theory of the world that we live in. It's more that, as a former professor myself, still a scholar at the Hoover Institution, I look at what the great minds of the 20th century, who are sort of free market minds and capitalist minds, thought would happen. And you can see that it's exactly what's happening right now, and it's chilling. And if we're going to stop it, first we need to understand it, and that's why I wrote the book.
Wow, that was powerful. If this trillions of dollar bill passes, Is the drift to socialism concretized?
Dennis Prager is referring to Build Back Better, which there's no Build Back Better at this point. If Build Back Better would have taken place in its original form, it still would not have been socialism. Healthcare wise, you would have had Medicare eligibility drop down to 60. You wouldn't have free college. You would have free tuition free. You would have tuition free community college. You would have some Green New Deal legislation attached to it. You have parental leave. It would have been added to this. There would have been some things like that. Some labor law reforms, things like that. It was probably, and the right wing call it woke, and there was nothing even remotely woke or politically correct. It might have been the most class reductionist piece of legislation in decades, probably since FDR's New Deal and LBJ's Great Society. It might have been the most class reductionist bill around. But you see, they will call anything woke. They'll call anything woke. Anything that the government does that's good for the people, they will call it woke, because that's all they got. That's the only thing that burns in their mindset. They don't like something, it's woke. And, not as if the right wing aren't woke, not as if being anti-trans the way that they are lately isn't woke. That's woke in the right wing direction. The anti-LGBTQ mentality that's been going on, or trying to shove religion down people's throats. And shame on you, Dennis Prager, for capitulating with the Christian nationalists, because these Christian nationalists, these evangelical Sharia types, the American Taliban, if they ever fully take over, they will subjugate and stop you from worshiping the way you do, being Jewish yourself. So, and before anybody say, oh, there you go, attacking Dennis Prager for being Jewish. No, far from it. But he's making himself a useful idiot to the right.
It's really close. It's really close. But it's not just the trillions of dollars, and we can go into the details of that. But it's also the fact that they're successfully canceling voices, as Schumpeter anticipated, calling them disreputable, discredited, if they stand up against those things. And so if they sort of get this through, then, what's to stop them from canceling not just Donald Trump, but you and me and everybody else, and continuing this sort of propaganda effort to move us towards a totalitarian socialist state. But make them.
Are you kidding me? When it comes to the cancel culture and totalitarian mindset, you people on the right wrote the book on this. You people wrote the book on this. You're finding ways to do this sort of thing. You got Jesse Kelly in a casual conversation with Tucker Carlson earlier this year, basically making a plea for fascism. And those words came out of his mouth. You basically have. In 2 summers ago, you had Donald Trump almost enacting the Insurrection Act to basically make martial law in this country take place. Apparently, some of his military people talked him out of it. So, and good for them. But the thing about it is, you're going to go and talk about lecture us about liberty and all this shit when y'all don't practice it yourselves. Shut the fuck up.
Mostly about it. They pretend to be moderate, these Democrats, but if you look at the drift, you got to understand that they're.
Oh, you're right. The Democrats, the mainstream Democrats, aren't moderate. They're corporate Democrats. They're right wing. Ronald Reagan basically influenced a bunch of cowardly Democrats after Walter Mondale lost in 1984 to create the Democratic Leadership Council, and Bill and Hillary Clinton took over it. I said this story before. And that's why Democrats are garbage today. They took the Democratic Leadership Council and they Reaganized the motherfucking Democratic Party.
They're really totalitarian socialists. That's really what they are. If I go to a university, I have to worry and talk about capitalism. I have to worry.
Are you kidding me? Nobody's going to cancel culture your ass in even the most woke university. You're not going to be cancel culture if you go and make a plea for capitalism. It's like a good friend Dwight Welsh said when it comes to the cancel culture thing. Nobody's going out there, hardly anybody's going out there canceling culture somebody for arguing for tax rates that favor the wealthy, or things like that. But or corporatist policies that conservative will argue for on the economic sphere. They will disagree, but they're not getting like super offended. But when you have a conservative talking about you wanting to go and take away rights from LGBTQ people, or trying to demonize African Americans in terms of law enforcement, and there's pushback against them, it's because in polite society, people think you're an asshole at that point. And I'm glad people think that such things, yeah, they got a right to be an asshole and say these horrible things. But you know what? People who are offended, they have a right to call the bullshit out on it. That's not cancel culture. That wouldn't be any more cancel culture than somebody getting triggered. And believe me, I have said things where conservatives have gotten triggered and ready to bite my head off for disagreeing with them just a little. I've had people threaten to kill me, to murder me for disagreeing with them. I had people saying that they, if they could, they would murder me. They would, if they could, through the internet. And I know it's the internet, but I have actually been threatened. I've been threatened on the streets doing petitions for the Socialist Party in the past. So spare me the hubbub and the victimization. Don't act like, don't even go there.
One thing I do, if I ever do get to university now and then, I ask students, if the title of my talk was Capitalism is Good, then what would happen if everybody says, oh, well, people would come and protest, they would disrupt. And I said, what if I said bestiality was good? And then people are like, no.
Nobody's going to go and you're comparing bestiality to socialism. Is that where you go? Fuck you.
Care about that, right? And so this is like how corrupt and awful our universities have become, and they're starting to cancel. They're trying to cancel us all. But the bill
are you kidding me? What about the state of Georgia? Did you care when Abby Martin was cancel culture because she was forbidden from speaking at the University of Georgia because she had to sign a loyalty oath to Israel? That's right. The state of Georgia had a law in the university system that you had to sign a loyalty oath to the state of Israel to speak in the University of Georgia. She took it to the state Supreme Court and won, and they stripped that part of the law out. I mean, and that's cancel culture. That is cancel culture right there. The anti-BDS laws around in various states around the country that basically would throw people in jail or fine them up to $250,000 for engaging in boycott, disinvestment, and sanctions against Israel. That will put you in jail, and it will paint you as an anti-Semite in the eyes of people. So you talk about cancel culture. You guys practice cancel culture.
It does have a whole lot of social stuff in it. All this money. Socialism is either government control of the means of production or the government telling you how money has to be spent. And this bill is filled with all that stuff. It's got all this Green New Deal stuff. And it's also got even things like Joe Biden. I don't know if you know this, although you know this every nuance. I don't know if you noticed, but they actually are having the government become your landlord. So they've got the government building houses and charging rent. And so they really want to think about when's the last time there was a big government landlord? Well, maybe it's Germany, Soviet Union. They really are moving us really, really in a radical direction.
I don't believe that that's happening, but if the government was actually building houses and homes to rent or create at a low cost for people to buy, because rent is high and housing is high, and the government was doing something about that, even to the level of the Soviet Union, they were doing something about that. Based, wonderful, can't get enough of it. Good. I believe in guaranteed housing. I may not agree with the Soviet system of government at the end of the day, but a stop clock gets the right time twice a day. They weren't wrong to guarantee housing. That's something I don't disagree with them about. But the homelessness that we have here in the United States and the skyrocketing cost of housing and skyrocketing cost of rent in this country because of real estate companies, pillaging and taking advantage and doing what they can to create ghettos with gentrifying and all of that and pricing people out of their own communities and all of that, and just making it so where you have to almost work 2 jobs just to make ends meet. You're in the wrong, buddy. You're in the wrong, and almost anybody in the opposite side are not.
Tell me about that. I'm not familiar with it, about this housing.
Yeah, they've got a huge expenditure for millions of affordable homes. And one of the things that, as you and I know,
and the government will be the landlord. Interesting.
Yes, directly or indirectly. That's right. And so the government wants to control your life. They want a Tony Fauci for every corner of your life. And this bill is really starting to do it. The thing about
yeah, and Marjorie Taylor Greene wants to put up legislation to basically ban trans people from existence with the so-called Protect the Innocence Act, to the point where even in private health insurance would deny trans care for adults. And she doesn't believe in universal health care, but she wants enough government involved in health care where she wants the government to tell private health insurance companies to not cover people who, adults who are interested in transitioning. So, y'all believe in big government. I admit I do believe in big government and the economics. I believe in small government on your personal life as possible. But y'all have it ass backwards. Y'all believe in economic libertarianism, but you believe in big government when it comes to people's private lives. Y'all are the fascists.
Think about the Green New Deal. You notice how they took away all of our rights because of COVID, right?
That was around the world. And your ass is still alive. And I bet you probably wore a mask, Kevin Hassett. I bet you wore a mask. And do I think that maybe the mask mandates and the lockdowns were a bit extreme? Yes. It wasn't just the United States. They did this around the world. Stop acting like this was just a United States thing. They did this around the world. But you're out there to make a culture war out of anything. You guys will make a culture war. Anything that any response that the government will make, you will make a culture war just to own the other side. We wouldn't have been able to win World War II this way with you guys around.
And what was it about COVID? Well, it was like a global health emergency. But when you hear the liberals talk, what's the bigger global health emergency? Climate change. And so,
well, climate change is a problem, motherfucker.
All the things that they do to take away your liberty because of COVID, there's going to be a million climate vouchers.
I don't feel like my liberty is being taken away with anything related to climate change in legislation. I mean, and believe me, anything that might be an imposition right now, it's all going to be irrelevant if what little freedoms you think you will still be having if nothing is done. When your ass has died because of climate change, it's not going to mean a damn thing to you.
And Phil is again starting that. It's not too late to defeat them. We can defeat these guys, but we have to identify them and we have to know who they are, why they're there, and then organize to exist. And I know that's something people on the show every day.
Well, great, thank you. In terms of defeating them, I have an optimistic and a pessimistic side, even though I'm not interested much in optimism or pessimism. They're both excuses not to fight. You think things will turn out well, you don't fight. You think things will turn out awful, you don't fight. I'm for fighting. But the part I most worry about is what I have claimed for many years now, that it is harder to get people off entitlements than it is off heroin. So that's why I worry about this bill in particular. It will just give more people vastly increased entitlements. And do we have any record of there ever being retracted?
Oh, God. Such a sloppy talking points.
Well, I guess there's been a little bit of welfare to work stuff over time. Ronald Reagan especially, and a little bit of Bill Clinton. But I think you're exactly. Yeah,
a little bit of Bill Clinton, the guy that you thought was a socialist, that governed to the right of Richard Nixon. That guy. Yeah, that was why one of the reasons why I turned against Bill Clinton was the welfare reform. That was not the answer.
Exactly right. And so what we're doing is we're paying people not to work, at the same time that we're giving everybody lots of cash to buy things.
I would rather pay people not to work than your prescription to basically pay people next to nothing and make them work hard and make them work. You want to go and put America back to pre-Roosevelt America, where it is almost, you want to make us go back to the Gilded Age. Fuck the Gilded Age. But that's what you want to make America go back to. And we are really living in the new Gilded Age. Joe Biden does, you claim that Joe Biden is controlled by Bernie Sanders and AOC. Really, Joe Biden is more controlled by Mitch McConnell than he is anybody else. This is, whether he's the majority leader or minority leader in the Senate or not, Democrat president, Republican president, sadly, Mitch McConnell's always still calling the shots. That's the problem. And you both know it. And you love it.
And so, but, the way I think it ends up, though, and the thing I'm very concerned about, is that they're jacking up demand with all this cash. And they're attacking supply by giving us the highest corporate tax in the developed world, by raising the tax on pastor entities, small business owners, to the highest of the world. And they're doing this attack on supply where they're feeding demand. So what's going to happen is inflation is going to continue to spin out of control. It's easily going to go into the double digits next year. And then, when we start...
And I'm going to tell you why I think your theories are full of holes. Because we have a supply problem over the past 2 years because of COVID and all that, and the supply chain problems that we've been having. It's forcing companies to come back to the United States. And that's actually should be good news. It's not good news for you guys, because you guys actually love seeing companies leave the United States because you love to see unions being busted. But this is probably as good of a chance for the unions to come back and everything. So we're probably going to be stuck with high prices, but they're probably going to stabilize, is my guess. And with the companies coming back, one of the few things I am optimistic about, and I know y'all hate that because there'll be more opportunity with more the manufacturing base coming back to the United States. It is a national security issue. It should have never happened. We should never have allowed these companies to outsource so easily. But I remember when people like y'all were thinking how good it was going to be for America to do this sort of thing. And you call everybody dinosaurs back then that were against it. Looked like those dinosaurs were correct.
We start to try to fight inflation, we're going to have a serious economic calamity. And serious economic calamities is when socialists pounce and they take away our rights. And I'm, again, very, very concerned about the trajectory of time.
Capitalism takes away a lot of people's rights. Pinochet's government in Chile was a prime example. And Milton Friedman, when he was alive, said that the only way you can make a capitalism work is through totalitarian governments like Franco's Italy, Franco's Spain, Salazar's Portugal, Pinochet's Chile. And he did use those examples of places where you can make capitalism work. Capitalism is more authoritarian at the end of the day. That's why I'm becoming increasingly more anti-capitalist.
Joe Biden has completely turned around the Trump economy, and he's done so in a way that's more rapid than he could ever have expected. And it's because he, at the same time that he's stoking demand, he's attacking supply. And if you don't have supply and you got lots of demand, then you end up with inflation and not much growth. It's stagflation.
Okay. All right. Well, you see the garbage that this guy had to talk about. And as I said, I mean, just, of course, I mean, he worked for his boss, Donald Trump. So he's going to give you his spin on things and all of that. So, that's Dennis Prager in a nutshell. He wants you to drink the Kool-Aid, and he's don't let the polite demeanor fool you. He's an asshole, and he's one of those folks that claims that progressives fear debating him, but he weaseled his way out of the debate with Sam Cedar, who I'm not the biggest fan of, but let's face it, Sam Cedar would destroy him in a debate, and he knows it. That's why he hung up the phone on him. I did a video a while back on Twitch that disappeared. I'm actually going to do a video in the near future again on that video subject, and I'll probably do a better job on it. So anyway, here on the chat line we have hold on, that was my reply. We have Snipe Hunt Master. Hey, how are you doing? We have Artie Reservoir. Sorry, I can't pronounce your name correctly. I apologize. We love Willie. Hey, how are you doing today? Thank you. I appreciate that. My man. Hey, how are you doing? What's up? And got the rose. My particular brand of socialism, of course. Yep. Is there any more comments here? I don't see any. So anyway, if you all like what you heard, press like and comment. And if you disagree, comment anyway. We will have a conversation. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it, because we are, in fact, the muckrakers of our time. Follow me here on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Rumble. Rumble, working on it. I will probably make a Facebook page too, because I guess that's still going to be a thing around for a while. And on Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to be interviewing Santa Claus of North Pole, Alaska. He's the mayor pro tem. He ran for Congress in Alaska's very first ranked choice voting contest. They had their first one in a special election, and he came in 5th place. I'll be interviewing him. It'll be about an hour interview. It should be fun. And until next time, remember to always reject corporate media, because they have absolutely nothing to offer. And register to vote, and remember, just remember, register to vote and vote wisely. So until next time, I will conclude by saying to you all, music.